All right, so in this video, we learn about team teaching, its advantages, and the types of settings for team teaching. Um, One important thing about team teaching is that as teachers, you learn from each other. So that is important. You can talk about your teaching. Um, you can look at the strengths and the weaknesses of your colleagues. Also, your colleagues can do the same for you. I mean, you can develop a lot of things if you are team teaching. But what is this team teaching? So, in team teaching, you have two or more teachers teaching a class together. So, basically, that's what we mean by team teaching. So, the settings that we have in team teaching, as I earlier said, will provide you abundant opportunities to share your skills. So one teacher has these types of skills, another teacher has these types of skills. So you are bringing these skills together, and that is good for your students. And in addition, like to strengthen the first point, as teachers, you have opportunities to apply what you know, support each other, implement and refine your practice. I mean, through that support that you give to each other as teachers, you will see that each and every time, or each and every semester, each and every year, there is an improvement that you can obtain uh, by teaching with a colleague in a team teaching setting. So, I mean, there are so many reasons that schools will go for team teaching. So sometimes, if you are looking at staff development, you can say, why don't we have two teachers pairing with each other and teaching together? You have a new teacher who just came and you want the teacher to learn from a veteran or to learn from someone who is experienced. So you can pair that new teacher with a veteran teacher. Sometimes you want to make sure that you can keep your new teachers. You do not want to overwhelm the teachers. So schools that do not want to overwhelm teachers, they can say, we are going to pair you with someone so that you don't have to carry the weight of your class on your own. Sometimes you can pair as teachers if you are teaching like if you go to a field trip, um, something that is exciting for your students, you can teach it as a team. Sometimes you just want your classrooms to be flexible and innovative. You want your students to see someone else in your class instead of just a single person. And above all, um, we are really trying to improve the learning opportunities for students. I mean, that includes students with disabilities. A team teaching approach may be good for our students because students can gain knowledge from different teachers, and the different teachers can vary their style of teaching. So one section of students can learn better from one teacher, another section of students can learn better from another teacher. When you combine the two teachers, or when you combine the team, you are giving advantage to students who have different learning styles. Oh, according to teachers, what are the advantages of team teaching? Definitely, you want to be able to speak to a colleague, so you have a collegial dialogue and supporting each other. So the team can support each other, the team can talk to each other. And because of that, usually there is this motivation to examine and improve your practice. Because you say, you know what, I need to be ready. I'll be teaching with a colleague there, which means I need to show that I am contributing to this class. And as teachers, you become more innovative. And also just sharing ideas, because as we will see later you have to have meetings where you are discussing your class. So by sharing these ideas, information, strategies, and materials, you are improving each other's teaching abilities or teaching skills. Leadership skills can also develop using team teaching, because there are two of you. There are so many things that you can discuss. There are so many conflicts that you can resolve in your team. So as you do all those, as you navigate through uh, your day-to-day activities, you are also developing leadership skills. And self-reflection, right? So you can reflect yourself. What am I contributing to this team? Right? What do my colleague think about my teaching? What changes should I make? Right? Do I like this? What should I do so that I like team teaching, or I encourage myself to be involved in this teaching approach? So really, self reflection, uh, attitudes, and beliefs can be improved or encouraged. What are the strategies that people use for team teaching? When we talk about team teaching, there is not a single way that you can do team teaching. Right? As teachers, if there is a pair of you, or if there is more than two of you, you're going to have to decide how we are going to teach. And there are several ways that teachers collaborate in a team teaching situation. So the first one that we have here is one teach, one assist. So in this case, you have your class and both of you are present. If there is a pair, so both of you are present there. One teacher is leading the class and the other is observing. But as the other observes, he or she is moving around the class assisting the students. So both of you are working. One teacher is teaching, the other teacher is observing while assisting the students. If the students are writing something, the other teacher is moving around and seeing what they are writing, helping them what they can correct, really making sure that the other teacher is also involved. That is, the teacher is assisting. Then we have the second one, which is one teach, one observe. So in this case, both teachers are present, but one teacher teaches, the other just observes. Normally, this works if you are collecting data from the class. So this works if you want to collect data from the class, or if your colleague has asked you to observe him or her, and then you want to like provide suggestions. So this works also for providing suggestions for improvement. So you want to improve each other's teaching. You can say, you know what, can you go teach? I am going to observe you. And then I can give you comments on what improvements you need to make. Then we have parallel teaching. So in this type of class, the teachers are going to teach to plan their instruction jointly. So you come together and plan the instruction. But then uh, after you plan your instruction, you say, let us share the class. You are going to take half the class and teach it. I am going to take half the class and teach it. So this works better if you want to reduce teacher, if you want to reduce student teacher ratio. So you want to reduce the student teacher ratio. Maybe you have a big class with 40 students. In terms of team teaching, you can say, you know, we are planning together our lesson. I want you to have 20 students and I am going to have 20 students. In that case, um, one teacher is teaching 20 students, the other teacher is teaching 20 students. You have reduced the teacher student ratio. Then we have station teaching. So in station teaching, um, you divide the content. You can have different sections or different stations in your class, and say, you know, this section and this section you are going to teach. This section and this section I am going to teach. These sections have different content. This works well in labs where you have one station, students are measuring maybe electric current, and the other station, students are weighing something. The other the other station, students are explaining something. So you can have these different stations in a single class, and then different teachers in within the team will be dealing with individual stations that have different content. Then you have alternative teaching. So alternative teaching, you have one teacher teaching a small group and the other teacher teaching a large group. So you can have a small group taken from the large group. I mean, an example is maybe one teacher is introducing the large group to something, and another teacher says, you know, I'll take some of the students and work with them on this one. They will come back to the larger group and you get another group and work with that other teacher. So that's alternative, because the students will be alternating between the larger group and the small group. So actually now the actual teaching is where you do everything together. So this is the perfect team teaching, where teachers will share instruction of the whole group. Activities are coordinated in one lesson plan. So you come together, you plan together, you teach together. A single class, a single group, everything coordinated. So that is really the perfect team teaching. So as you are planning this team teaching, you know that normally you are dealing with a colleague who is a person. When dealing with people, there are so many things that can, or so many hindrances that can occur. So as a team, you need to make sure that you are thinking, what can we do to make our team a success? How can we uh, enhance our experience as team members of this class, as teachers? So we need to take note that any collaboration will require commitment. Make sure that if you want to teach as a team, each team member is committed to individual or to shared goals. The thing you want for your students is student success. Each team member must share that goal. If you are thinking that we need to teach this as an inquiry class, each of the team members should each of the team members should be in agreement with the inquiry class or should be ready to teach through inquiry. You need to have this shared goal. You need to be able to communicate. Communication is very important in a team. And in a team, you don't want someone to become a boss and someone, you don't want that. You don't want one of the team members to be bossy. You want to be at equal footing. So you need to maintain equality. That can lead to success of your team. So there are several things that you can do to make your team a success. You need to know your team or core teacher. Definitely, each and every time you are teaching, you need to clarify roles and responsibilities. For this class, what are you going to do? Which part are you going to take? Are you going to be the one observing and me teaching, or are you going to be the one teaching and me observing? If we have an assignment, who is going to grade? Are we going to share the grading? If there are questions to ask, who is going to ask them? Is it me or you, or are both of us going to ask these questions? If both of us are going to ask the questions, how are we going to do it? Communication is very important. Above all, you want to focus on student learning, and we'll learn more what we mean by all these points. Proper planning, you need time for planning. Plan for how you can confront problems and disagreements that you may have as you teach. So, how do you know your team or co-teacher? First, you need to identify values and beliefs relating to one, your teaching style, classroom environment. So you need to identify these. These are my beliefs. What are your beliefs? And your colleague will tell you his or her beliefs. And then you need to look at these two beliefs and say, how can we come up to a compromise? How can we make our two beliefs align so that we effectively teach this class? Talk about your philosophy of teaching, your understanding. When you say I'm a teacher, what is your understanding of teaching? Ask your colleague, what is your understanding of teaching? So you need to share that information so that you know what are the philosophies of my colleague, what are my philosophies, how can we compromise these philosophies, or how can we improve each other's philosophies. Discuss, you and your colleague, what are the goals for your students. If I'm teaching, these are my goals. What are your goals? Do you want to teach critical thinking? Do you want to teach communication? Do you want to teach problem solving? So both team members must discuss and see what goals they are going to make for the class. And also think about profession development. As a team, what is your goals for professional development? Do you need to do research in your class? Do you want to be a researcher? Or what else do you want? Can teaching in a team enhance your professional goals? Ask each other, what is your teaching style? How do you teach? Do you teach using inquiry, or do you just teach using normal lecture? Do you like classroom discussions, or do you like teaching students in small groups? So find each other's interpersonal styles and teaching styles. Like, if you are talkative, do you like me being a talkative person, or do you like me being a quiet person? How do you relate to each other? Think about those things because they are important if you have to teach together, especially that a team can teach the whole semester. So how do you clarify your roles and responsibilities? So first, you need to be able to hold each other accountable. If you are teaching in a team and someone misses class, it becomes a problem. If you are team teaching, you need to make sure that you agree that each and every day, both of you will be in class. So you need to agree that at the beginning of the semester. If your agreement is not like that, you can say, all right, I will come this week, you come next week, or I will come the first 2 weeks and you come 2 weeks after that, or you come week 3. You need to uh, develop a method for holding one another accountable. Each member of the team needs to know his or her responsibility, and they need to uh, accomplish those responsibilities. They need to take those responsibilities head on. You don't want in a team to leave your responsibilities to a colleague. Also, make sure that you set up regular assessments and discussions, meetings that help you plan, understand your teaching, right? Discuss the goals, improve the goals, try to see if maybe 2 weeks before there was something that was not effective. You try to see how are we going to improve our effectiveness as a team. So make sure that the team members, both team members must be active. You don't want the students to see just one of the team members as the one teaching and the other one is just observing. They need to see um, today one teacher taking a role, a leading role. Tomorrow, the next teacher taking a leading role. Or they need to see both of you actively involved in teaching at the same time in the classroom. And sometimes you don't want just to play one song. You should be able to change the way you are collaborating. We discussed several ways of collaborating. We have one teacher, one assist, one teacher, one observe, team teaching. So today you can do one teacher, one assist. Tomorrow you can do one teacher, one observe. Next time you can do alternative. So change. You are allowed to change the way you collaborate in your team. And you need to allow both of you to deal with the content, to demonstrate knowledge and skills, and to teach this knowledge and skills. You don't want only one teacher to be walking around every day and one teacher teaching in front. No, you want to alternate so that both of you are learning the same thing as teachers, are teaching similar things as teachers. You are demonstrating your knowledge and skills. These are the things that you need to clarify at the beginning of your team teaching agreement. How do you maintain effective communication? Try to develop interpersonal skills. Try to understand each other. You need to know what your colleague likes, what the colleague does not like. Try to clearly communicate your ideas and feelings. If something is wrong, you need to respectfully talk to your colleague. Be an active listener. You don't want to be the one always talking, but you also don't want to be the one always listening. You need to be an equal in this team teaching relationship. Try to have this face-to-face contact as with your colleague so that you get to know each other. You are working together after all. So as team teachers, how do you focus on student learning? So think about the curricular, social, and behavioral needs of your students. So you sit down as a team and think about this. Think about the behaviors of your students. Think about the social needs of your students. Think about the classes you are teaching. Right? Who are you teaching? Are you teaching in places that have some social issues like well-funded schools versus badly funded schools? Are you teaching in a diverse community? How do you deal with that? Are you teaching in a school um, which has a lot of behavioral needs? So as team teachers, you need to sit down and discuss. What about my class? What are the behavioral needs of my class? How do we address this as a team? Sit down and discuss what are your expectations? What are the objectives that you want to achieve with your students? What are the skills that you want your students to learn? And how do you know? How will you know that the students have learned? How will you assess the outcomes of your class as a team. So you need to sit down and discuss that. What instructional practices are you going to use? What teaching styles are you using? As a team, create a progress monitoring system. How do we determine their improvement after 2 weeks? Do we determine their improvement after 7 weeks? What should we do to determine their improvement in each class? What sort of assessments are we going to use? So you need to create a progress monitoring system for your students. And you need to establish an ongoing communication plan. So you can set up weekly meetings, or you can set up a meeting before each class. So you just make sure that you and your colleague are on the same level. You don't want one person to be really far and another person to be behind. You want to make sure that you are speaking on the same level, both of you. So another important thing in terms of team teaching, you need to make time for planning. So, I mean, lack of planning definitely is detrimental. Even when you are teaching as an individual, you need to plan well so that you effectively teach. You teach effectively. So you need to make time as team members for planning. When are we going to plan? Are we going to plan at school? Or do we have a different space that we can use for planning? Do we have a specific building in this school that we can use for planning? Do we want someone to help us with our planning? So create, if you are teaching students with disabilities, you create a flexible schedule. Right? A flexible schedule that can change based on circumstances that you are having. You don't want to be rigid, but what matters is have time for planning, because proper planning is the beginning of proper teaching. And last but not least, you need to know how to confront problems and any disagreement. So just talk about the conflict management system. How are you going to deal with conflicts? And you need to agree at the beginning. There's no raising voices here. We just discuss amicably and find a solution or resolve our conflict. So these are the things that you are going to agree. And as a team member, you need to be proactive in creating solutions to anticipated problems. If something happens, don't be someone who is in front there thinking that you know everything. Nobody knows everything. Sometimes your colleague can know more than you. Sometimes maybe you may know more than your colleague. So you need to be able to understand your colleague, to take in their advice, but also you need to have this opportunity to give advice to your colleague, because both of you need to be responsible about what is happening in your team. And don't wait for problems to linger a long time. You need to address them as they arise. If you are not able to address the problems, seek assistance. You can ask an administrator, or you can ask another colleague to help you solve problems that are complicated. So really, in terms of team teaching, what is important is the planning, the type of structure that you want to use, the focus on your students, what you want your students to learn, and how you are going to deal with problems that you face in your team. So if you are planning any team teaching, you are thinking about these types of or the structures, and you are thinking about how do we deal with other issues apart from the team teaching itself. So when you teach your micro teaching tool, I'll need to see you using some of the things that we have discussed today about team teaching. Thank you.